Hey everyone, Sergio P here. Today we're talking test shoots. We're talking beer photography. We're talking Capture One. We're talking Photoshop. I just want to go over my process in creating some new drinks images, beer specifically. It's something I find I'm lacking in my portfolio, and it's always exciting to shoot because you never really know what you're going to get. If you're a photographer and you're looking to book with some new clients this year, this is something that's absolutely crucial for you to implement into your workflow. A day on set as a commercial photographer is something you're lucky to get a couple times a year. So in between all those times, we got to be testing, we got to be practicing, we got to be making sure that our skills are sharp enough so that when we do arrive on set, we got everything nailed down. It's very much part of the job to do the research in the clients that you want to work with and the type of shoots that they're currently working on, and try to implement something that's similar in your own portfolio with your own style. Basically, like Stewart said in Mad TV, hey ma, look what I can do. You want to be able to bring forth these concepts before they even think of them, but still be in line with the type of photography that these clients like to do. So today we're shooting with two local beers here from BC. Actually, let me know down in the comments if you guys have tried any of these. We've got the Four Winds Nectarous and the Stanley Park, what is it, Trail Hopper IPA. Two very different beers, but two that I enjoy quite a bit. We're gonna be shooting a commercially viable, very clean, crisp image, but at the same time, I wanna create something that's a little bit more in line with my style of photography, which is just very bold and graphic and colorful. I do have a couple tricks up my sleeve, so stick around for that. But until then, I actually have no idea what we're gonna get. You saw the thumbnail, so you probably know what we're gonna get, but me, this version of Sergio, has absolutely no idea. So let's just jump right in and see what we get. I want to start by lighting the glass, and I want to create a gradient on the side of it. So I'm going to use this tracing paper here, and in the back I've got a strip box. We're going to angle and shoot towards the glass over here, hitting this diffusion paper and creating kind of like a nice gradient on the glass. So far I've got 4 lights out. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them all, but we're going to go one light at a time and see how we can build the shot. And then we're gonna take out the beer. We're gonna pour the beer in. We're also, before we do that, we're gonna dress the glass with this over here. It's just a mixture of glycerin and water at 50%. And we're just gonna spritz the glass to try to get a little bit more of that condensation look. And also one more thing, we're gonna grab some chopsticks. These are natural bamboo, and there's just something about the material that reacts with the beer and creates kind of like a second foam, as if you just poured it a second time, and it just gives us a whole bunch of head. All right, so if we take it into Capture One, now I can pop open my live view. I could turn on my camera first, and then this should populate. There we go. So I've got this dummy beer for now. So for the 2 glasses that I have, they're both different heights, and I have the same height can. So what I want to create is something that's somewhat even between the glass and the can. So in order to do that, I have the camera lifted up a little bit and angled down. And that way I can try to position the 2 props at a distance where the top of each other kind of match up so it looks aesthetically pleasing. Now, if I'm looking here at my live view, just to get an idea, this seems to be about right. But if I'm looking at it from here, they're like, 4 or 5 inches apart. So it would look weird in person, but on the camera, I think it's gonna look pretty good. Let's see what our first shot would look like. So this shot's gonna be just pitch black, hopefully. Yes, it is. So let's turn on our flashes one at a time. There we go. So I went with something to match the color of the can. Let's turn on backlight, the main light over here. Let's see what that looks like. So I've got a nice catch light, as you can see here, coming down the side of the glass. And it's very nice and diffused because of that layer of tracing paper there. I'm just gonna try to point it a little bit more towards the glass, see if that makes a difference. Yeah, we get a little bit more of a highlight here on the can as well. Obviously this could be a different can in the final shot, but just to get an idea here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now, I do have this reflector on the side already kind of preemptive, just because I knew I wanted to just fill in that other side, but also want to have it a little bit less intense than on this side. I'm not a huge fan of having that symmetrical backlight where it just kind of halos the whole subject. Whereas like this kind of creates a similar effect, but a little bit more directional and just helps tell the story a little bit differently. Next up, what do we want? We want to turn on, let's try this guy over here. Now this I'm going to try to light just from the front, try to get a little bit more detail on the label, just to get something, again, very crisp and commercial. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with this. Oh, and there's one more thing. So I do want to do a half pouring shot. So in order to freeze that motion of those bubbles, I'm going to have to use something at a lower power at a faster flash duration. So in other words, this spotlight over here is just going to kind of add in a little bit of fill to just kind of freeze all that action that's going on while I'm stirring and getting some bubbles in the beer. So we're just gonna turn this guy on real quick here, and hopefully we don't see it too much in the image, because it's gonna have there's gonna be a white head of beer, so it's gonna blow out very quickly if it's shot from above like this. But what I'm hoping it does is just gives us enough light to freeze that motion of those bubbles. So let's try that again. And we're gonna get a nice little bit of a more stylistic shadow on the bottom as well from the hard light source from above. This is a style choice, of course, but for something that I'm doing, it's just kind of gonna help tie in this image with the rest of my portfolio a little bit better than if it was just a almost 90s look to the image. We're getting pretty close to our final frame here before pouring our beer. So right now I'm focused on the actual can, but I also want to get a shot of it focused on the front. It is shot at f11, so hopefully there's enough depth of field, but I think I'm going to still focus stack so that we can get a very crisp image. That said, let's go with the glycerin. I think we're ready to give this a little spritz. Like I said, so the secret to this is just glycerin and water, nothing fancy, but the glycerin just helps adhere to the glass a little bit better, and the water just helps give it a little bit more realistic, and at the same time we get a varying size in the bubbles by having a different surface tension in the two materials. So give it a nice mix. It doesn't like to mix too well, and let's give it a couple spritz. I'll go from a few inches away. And there we go. Here we got our hero that I picked out from the store. I was picking out singles from the store, and I'm like, all right, no, this one, the can doesn't, no, it's not rotated properly. Oh, the label's a little fucked up on this one. No, now I got a good one. We're good with that. Let's get a quick shot with our actual prop in there. Let's make it just a little bit more perfect. Starting to see that condensate, or the glycerin on the glass as well. Now, let's get a gray card shot before I forget. And what we're gonna do, just choose that 18% gray. And now it's just gonna apply that same white balance to every image moving forward without us having to do anything else. So that's great. So now, the beer, the fun stuff. I'm not too worried about pouring this terribly, because I kind of want those bubbles. I want the chaos that's going on in there anyway. So I'm not gonna move the glass, and we're just gonna hope for the best and try to get a shot with it mostly full. I'm hoping to get at least the beer up to here and just the head at the top. And to give us a little bit of help with that head, we're gonna use the chopsticks, and you'll see it looks pretty cool. Now is a good time too to just take a few other test shots, because now that there's liquid in your glass, it's gonna change a little bit of how it looks, how much light is getting pushed through and stuff. So one thing that's great too with the hard light from this flash that's put up above is we're getting this down here. We're getting these, I forget what the name of this, I learned it recently, but this type of shadow that comes out from the bottom of the glass from the liquid always looks great. Gives us a nice bit of love to the images, a bit of life to the image. Let's see how this looks. This is giving me some big St. Paddy's Day vibes with that green backlight. Not really what I had in mind, but the holiday is coming up, so I'm just gonna run with it. So I don't know if this beer needs the chopstick so much, but goddamn, it's quite frothy. But it is gonna give us a second go at it, and it's gonna let us kind of play with the glass and try to get some bubbles in there, moving around and getting a bit of action in the glass. So that's what I'm hoping for over here. That's not bad already. I think that's looking pretty good. Yeah, I think I would like to have a little bit more action in the bottom, but it doesn't look too bad. Kind of wouldn't mind having a little bit more light bounced back here. I'm gonna try to bring this a tiny bit closer. It's just getting dark in that bottom right corner there a little bit for me. I kind of want that head to be frothing over the glass a little bit, and I want a little bit of that action in the glass itself. So I'm gonna be close to my computer so I can fire off right away. And there we go. Oh, that did not work. Sorry, it worked last time. Try to rough up the edges a little bit, maybe crack off the tip so we can expose some of that bamboo. And we're gonna go from there. What? Okay, well, I'm gonna use this top. Okay. So for some reason it's not working with this beer. Okay, so I got two assets that I'm pretty happy with. I got a bottom and a top. So I think we're just gonna leave it at that. And we're gonna try the next beer. We're gonna move on. So for the other beer, I'm gonna do the same thing. Kind of just put it here. Actually, well, let's just glycer in the cup and then we'll add the beer after. Varying size of bubbles there. Right, so I went to the liquor store to get more beer and they didn't have this beer anymore. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to do a comp. So what I'm gonna do is I'll place it, we'll shoot it, and then we'll comp it in post, and I'll show you guys how we're gonna do that. And we'll just use the same beer that's inside here to fill the liquid. I just like having a sealed can. I think it looks a little bit more aesthetically pleasing that way. So we'll just do it in 2 shots instead, and we'll see what it is. It is what it is, you know? So let's just make sure the shot is perfect. We're gonna change the gel probably to this pink guy over here. Just take this out. Now we can have something that looks similar, but also is its own thing just by changing a little piece of plastic. Let's see what that looks like. And boom, we're in a completely different world. So the label on this one is quite a bit, it's like very wide, so it kind of wraps around the back, which is unfortunate. However, I think one tip that you should remember is that if you're gonna hide a part of the label in any way, make sure that it's the end of it and not the start of it, because as smart as humans are, we can kind of read the first part of it and figure out the rest. Boom, let's try that here. All right, they're looking pretty good. They look very similar in height. So now we're gonna comp it. So we're gonna make sure we get a very nice asset. I'm gonna try to put it back in the same place just to get a general shot, and maybe just need to Photoshop in the top instead of having to Photoshop the whole can, but we'll see. We'll get a couple options and it'll be pretty simple. We'll go together in Photoshop and show you exactly what we're doing. So let's make sure our focus is already set back there. Okay, so that looks great. I'm pretty happy with the can like that. I think this looks fantastic. Everything is nice and proportional. Cup looks good. Condensation looks a little wonky, but I don't think we have a choice. We're gonna go with it. I'd like smaller bubbles, but I think there's a bit too much water in that spray, at least specifically. Maybe I didn't shake it enough, but I'll give it one more spray, just for good luck. Don't do that either. Okay, great. That actually works really well. Okay, cool. So, last little test shot. We got a nice shot of the can the way we want it. Perfect. Let's bring our focus back to the cup, just like that. Take that shot. Boom, boom, boom. Now let's pour our beer. And we're gonna try the bamboo again because I've tried it before and it worked. It should work. We'll be fine. The top of that looks good. That's nice. It's looking pretty good. There's some like dimension in the head. Obviously I want more beer in the cup, but just the very tip top of the head looks pretty good because we might be able to save that, use it in our shot later. Okay, getting there. I want a bit more beer in there, like I said, but if I can get some up at least to the very last little whoosh, that'll be good. The last little whoosh. You know what I mean? The last little whoosh. Getting better. This cup is a little phallic, but it's getting better. Kind of like that. How's that look? Close to what we want. It's close to what we want. It's actually pretty good. That looks pretty good, guys. I don't know. I was gonna do all these fancy wonky things on the head of these beers, but I don't know. They're pouring out pretty good. The secret is to pour terribly and be patient. But that looks really good, actually. I'm actually pretty happy with that. I'm still gonna try this little bamboo here. Give it a second go. There it is. So you got a little bit more life in that head there. Just kind of came and said hello. Look at that. That's cool. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. That looks great. A little bit of life. A little bit of realness. Look at that, that looks amazing. Okay, great, cool. Let's go with that. Let's bring that into post. All right, so welcome back. Let's go through our shots on Capture One. We'll just kind of go in depth on a few of the different ones here and try to show you all of the local adjustments that I did before importing them into Photoshop, and then we'll look into Photoshop and then we'll see what they look like. So let's start here with Capture One. As you saw here, the first frame, pure black. It's always the most important thing when I'm shooting any kind of product image or still life image. I just want to make sure that I'm controlling all of the lighting so that the camera basically just sees pitch black. So the settings don't really matter as long as it's pitch black. So this is as the beer is pouring in. As you saw, so this is one of the ones I chose. I quite liked the head, and I'll go over all of the adjustments that I did to it, but just to see as they were coming in here to get a little bit of a difference. This is the beer coming in. Still get a nice little condensation. There we go. This is the other one that I chose. So I think this is the, yeah, this one's got a bit more action in the cup. The beer looks a little bit more alive, so to speak. So I went with this one for the inside, and I went with this one for the top of the head. If you remember, I was trying to stir the bamboo sticks. Oops, I was trying to stir the bamboo sticks, and for some reason it wasn't working. I don't know if I over poured this beer and got rid of all of the foam before, like as it was just being poured. But yeah, it just wasn't. It didn't want to give me a second life with the bamboo sticks, but the other beer did. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but I could have also cracked open a second beer. I just didn't feel like it, and we left it at that. I just didn't think that this shot over here had enough beer in the glass, so I wanted to take another one of it with a little bit more beer. And as you can see, that this is without stirring it, so you can kind of see the reflection of the marble, and while stirring it, we just kind of create this nice diffuse effect that goes through the glass, but still looks realistic, not like when you use matte spray on a glass. There we go. So then we moved on to the next shot, and this one had to be a comp of the can and the glass because I only had the one beer for some stupid reason. But we made it work. It looks all right. There is this strange little artifact that I'll show in Photoshop with you guys in just a sec. It's just something kind of strange happened. I'm not sure how that worked out, but we fixed it. I think it looks all right now. So this one too, I thought I'd maybe gotten rid of all the head, but for some reason it was just pouring out and giving us a nice, I think it's probably the shape of the glass. It was giving us a nice shape to the head of the beer, so I just kind of went with it. I didn't really do too much to it other than play with some of the shadows you'll see later in Photoshop. These are the 4 images side by side that we'll be taking into Photoshop and comping to create our final images. So all the shots have pretty much the same adjustments to them, and we'll just go through everything that I did so I can show you. You'll see that I added a adjustment layer to the bottom just to create a little bit more of a glow from the bottom of each shot, just because I thought it was getting a little dark. And then on the actual photo, I just have obviously my white balance. You'll see there's really not much to these shots. Teeny tiny bit of contrast. I added a bunch of light in the shadows just to kind of give us a little bit more of a glow from the inside of the glass. If I click over here on the top right at the exposure warning, I can kind of just make sure that none of my highlights are clipping. It's not the end of the world if they are, but just to know that I knew I didn't want to overexpose the head of the shot of the beer, because I still wanted some detail, and I know it's really white and there was a light right on top, so I was trying to be careful with that. But other than that, as you can see, we're all good here. Next, if I move down, color balance I didn't play with. Color editor, I just switched the green a little bit on these shots, and then on this one I think I didn't do anything, I think, actually. No, I'm good. I didn't do anything in the pink, but I just adjusted the green slightly just to get the hue right, but I ended up swapping the background in Photoshop anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I added a little bit of clarity just to get a little bit more punch in those midtones. If you look over here on this middle shot, if you look at the difference between punch and natural, it's subtle, but you can definitely get a slightly different look to the clarity using all of these 4 different styles, I guess, of the clarity slider. If I just max it out here just to show you the difference. Some of them look a little bit better for food, some look a little bit better for portrait. You just play around with it and see what works best for you. So I'm just gonna bring it back, good enough. And there we go. So we'll take these 4 shots, we'll throw them into Photoshop, and I'll show you what I did with it I'll show you what I did there on Photoshop. Okay, going through this image here, I'll just kind of go through each of these adjustments that I did to the shot and show you guys why I did what. So if we open up the first group, just kind of cleaned up the edges, random spot healing here and there. I comped the back picture on top of the front picture. In other words, I just used the head from the one and I used the whole image from the other one. Very simple to do, just kind of added a little bit of life there to the top. I added a little highlight. Oh no, this is, so this I ended up comping the other glass as well. I had a little bit less of a little bit more life, a little bit less of that orange glow on it. So I think it just kind of looked a little bit better as a standalone. And then here's our background. So this is pretty drastic, but as you can see, the colors are still very similar. I ended up removing this later, but you'll see, you know, the light in the back of the glass and on the edges of the glass ended up matching the green tone of the background anyway. Next up, we got a little bit of life back in the bottom of the glass and down here. Some levels adjustment and then a curves adjustment. I added some contrast. This is a linear contrast. And then I did a little bit more spot healing around the shot. So that was the top of the head over here. I removed the highlight in the front of the glass and a few more random spots on the bottom on the marble. Next up, this was a adjustment layer for just a little bit of, I added like a dodge and burn layer essentially. Just a little bit of dodging to kind of give a bit more highlight in the glass a little bit and on the label. Oh, so this here was essentially the different backgrounds that I was trying out. I tried out a slightly lighter green, a darker orange, and then a yellow. All these actually look pretty good, but I think I'm just gonna stick with the original idea, which was the foresty green look anyway. I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys like the orange? You guys like the yellow? I think they look pretty neat. They still play with the can, but it's just not the vibe I was originally pulling out. But the beauty of Photoshop is you can select out certain parts of the image and very easily and cleanly create completely new assets for different holidays or whatever you need. So moving on to the next shot. So this is how it started over here. And for some reason, I don't know if you guys can tell, but the glass looks straight, but the can is crooked. Am I crazy? Is that what's happening? Let me know if I'm crazy. But really though, maybe the glass is also I don't know what's going on in this shot, but it kind of bothered me, so I ended up doing a little bit of Photoshop magic. It's not totally perfect, but I think I saved it decently. So essentially here, if I open up the layers groups, so first thing I did was just take the closed can from the first shot and put it on top. I just used the top part of the shot, and there was like this part here because of the droplet. I just thought it would be easier to comp it out like this than it is to spot heal it later. And this some more just general spot healing. And this is what I did with the can. So if you look here, there's going to be like a little mistake sort of that's on this side of the glass, but it kind of saved itself. It doesn't look too bad. The label also not perfect. I think it's just because there's a bubble of glycerin there on the edge, but it's, you know, it's not perfect, but it is good and it's there, and we're just gonna roll with it because life is not perfect and I'm not good enough to be perfect yet. So we'll just kind of play with that and go with it. Yeah, so I kind of just selected out the can and rotated it. And obviously with the pink and on the marble, it's pretty easy to comp on the sides, but here on the glass, it was a little bit trickier, but it did itself pretty much. I just tried to do a nice selection, and I don't know, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Here, there's a little mistake here as well, but you know. And then I did a background swap as well. So I just kind of selected out the background, chose the same pink that I was hoping for anyway, and went with that. So all of the, you know, the pink fringing that's sort of happening on the can and on the edge of the glass here still are true to how it was shot. A little bit of liquefy. Oh yeah, so I just kind of slightly changed the shape of the head over here just to give it something a little bit more symmetrical, but not too perfect. I didn't want it to be perfect because it's still a beer. It should have a little bit of life. It should be a little bit more, less robotic, essentially. Then I did a bit of frequency separation for the bottom of the glass here. Something was, I mean, it's still not perfect. It is kind of bothering me. Maybe I'll play around with it a little bit more before I upload it. But essentially, I did that pretty much. I just kind of cleaned out some of the bottom of the reflections. And then I played with the dodge and burn again, which is this up here. Yeah, so essentially I added a linear contrast curve, a levels curve, or a levels adjustment, and then here is my dodge and burn layer, or dodge and burn group. So that's what's giving us a little bit more shape and directionality to the glass and the beer in there. And there we go, there's my final image. So just a little before and after. I don't know, that can is just so strange. And then this guy over here as well, a little before and after. And there we go. So what do you guys think? So I'm curious if you guys are gonna go try out some new lighting scenarios yourselves, kind of test yourself, push yourself, create something new. It's always fun for me. I always enjoy being able to create something that didn't exist before. That's the whole point of this. And yeah, guys, thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing, maybe like this video, let me know, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Peace.